Okay, so welcome to another edition of Featured Business, brought to you by Visibility Impact and myself, James Moffat, your host. And today we have our 78th guest, 𝗬𝗢𝗪𝗏. Now, have I said that correctly?
Perfectly well. Yes,
okay,
thanks, James.
Because I am terrible with names. All right. So I actually got one right. Okay, so Dominic, we're going to come to you shortly. But before we get going, we kick this off with our weekly singer, Emily, normally live, but unfortunately she's not feeling too good today. So she's given us a link to one of her kind of pre-recorded songs. So she sings cover songs, but she also sings her own songs. So you're in for a surprise. So I'm just going to share my screen and you'll be able to hopefully hear Emily sing. And right, this should work. Sometimes it doesn't work and I have to sing, which is not so good. Right. Okay, so you can see the screen.
Yep.
All right, let's just make that bigger and just let Laszlo in. Right, Laszlo's been a previous guest and Paul has been a previous guest as well. Right, so let's just make this a bit bigger. You can see my screen?
Yes.
Let's just make this bigger. Right, and here we go.
Tú abriste las heridas que ya daba por curadas con limón, tequila y sal. Una historia repetida solamente en déjà vu que nunca llega a su final. Mejor que quedo sola y me olvido de tus cosas, de tus ojos. Mejor escribo el polvo, no quiero caer de nuevo en esa foto de locura, de hipocresía total. ¿Quién puede hablar del amor y defenderlo? Que levante la mano, por favor. ¿Quién puede hablar del dolor? Paga la fianza pa' que salga de mi corazón. Si hazme hablar del amor, te lo aseguro, eso no voy a hacer yo. La 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 la. Esta día recurrente quiere jugar con mi mente pa' volverme a engatusar. Una historia repetida solamente en déjà vu que nunca llega a su final. Mejor me quedo sola y me olvido de tus cosas, de tus ojos. Mejor escribo el polvo, no quiero caer de nuevo en esa foto de locura, de hipocresía total. ¿Quién puede hablar del amor y defenderlo? Que levante la mano, por favor. ¿Quién puede hablar del dolor? Paga la fianza pa' que salga de mi corazón. Si alguien va a hablar del amor, te lo aseguro, eso no voy a hacer yo. ¿Quién puede hablar del amor y defenderlo? Que levante la mano, por favor. ¿Quién puede hablar del dolor? Paga la fianza pa' que salga de mi corazón. Si alguien me habla del amor, te lo aseguro, eso no voy a hacer yo.
Beautiful.
Bravo.
I love the song.
Yeah. Oh, hang on a minute. It's going to start playing more songs in a minute.
We're gonna have a song session.
All right. Hang on a second. I've got to try and. We'll be singing songs all day. Oh yeah, I like that one. Did you hear that one also?
No.
Oh, you didn't? Ah.
No.
Well, maybe it's only me that heard it because I. Yeah. Okay, that was a really nice one. I'll play that one next week if she can't make it. So that's Emily. That was our guest singer. So she normally, as I said, is normally on live singing, but that was a great song. She actually lives in Lausanne.
Oh.
So not far from you, Dominic.
Yeah, I'll contact her.
And she works with children. Does a lot of work with children. She does summer camps and all sorts of different themed camps, Harry Potter and stuff like that. And you know, a lot of things. So anyway, Dominic, you are our 78th guest. Just quickly, since Laszlo joined as we started the song. So Laszlo, you just want to just say who you are and where you are.
Hello everyone, sorry for being late. Hi Dominic, and
Hi.
yeah, hi, I'm Laszlo Tóth. I'm based in Geneva. I just checked your LinkedIn profile, Dominic, and I see quite a few common acquaintances or connections.
Sure.
So I'm connecting you.
Excellent.
Cheers. Thank
nice to meet you.
Thanks, Laszlo. And Laszlo was a guest as well. So yeah, there's a lot of people here that I try to make some good synergies with people so they can connect. And we will share at the end of it all your links and everything that people can connect with you. Typically, we do this on LinkedIn since everybody seems to use LinkedIn more than anything. Okay, so Dominic, let's get going.
Yes,
let's
James.
get going, right? So I'm just going to put you right on the big screen for me.
Wow. For you, that's okay then.
I don't know if it changes
for you.
I don't know if it changes for
No, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing. It doesn't change for me. I see enough of
yeah, the thing is when I pin you, I don't see myself every time I talk, which is good. Otherwise, when I talk, I'm looking at myself talk, and then it puts me off, right? Let alone anyone else. Right, so let's get going. So Dominic, we're going to just take you on a little story. I know you started to share a little bit already with Kim, so Kim's got to forget everything that you heard because we'll get to that as we go through. So before we get going, tell us like where you are and where you're originally from.
Okay, so that's an easy one because where I am today is Geneva, and that's where I'm originally coming from. And I'm proud to say that I'm 100% Swiss product. I've got the stamp of Switzerland. My mom coming from the Swiss German part and my dad coming from Geneva. So, and as a good Swiss, it didn't take me long to escape Switzerland as soon as I could to explore the world because Switzerland was too small. And I'm a curious person. So it was not enough.
Right. So you have some great stories because, as I mentioned before, I send out a questionnaire just so I've got a bit of an insight into who you are before we go. But we've known each other for a number of years anyway. Yeah. So we pretty much know each other. So for me, it's not too much new, although you can always surprise me.
Oh, yeah. I bet I could.
But I guess more so in the last couple of years because it's been a bit of a challenge and different things for a lot of people. So for the audience, they want to know some of your stories. So we're not restricted to any one, but as I take you through, then from a child, I mean, before we get into the business, as a child growing up, kind of what were the things you were interested in?
Oh, when I was a child, my dream at the time was already traveling. So what I had decided for myself, growing older, is that I would become a flight attendant so that I could be flying wherever in the world. So that was my plan until I realized that I'm sick in planes. And 35 years or 50 years later, I'm still sick in plane, but at the time to be a flight attendant didn't seem the right career path. And that's the reason why I registered. Registered at the hotel school in Lausanne at the time, because I thought hotel business was quite a good compromise. I could travel while I was working. I love eating, I love drinking, I love partying. So, you know, that being an 11 years girl when I registered at the school was making a lot of sense. It was a good plan. If I had known at the time where that would have led me, I probably would have done the same, probably. But at the time, yeah, it was 11 years old when I decided of my career, which is not the career I had long term, but that's when I took the decision.
So you've got some memorable stories that you can share with us when you were a child. I mean, even going back younger than that. So there are, I mean, when you were 4 years old and you ventured out into the jungle, right? Yeah. So of that story, so maybe you can share that one.
I can still I still smell the, you know, the smell of what it meant.
Of the elephants.
Of the elephants. Well, not so much of the elephants, the water and the powder of being in the jungle, you know, the soil of the African soil, the smell of it. And it was because we went for Christmas time. I was 4 years old, and my parents decided that we needed and deserved a different Christmas. So for me at 4 years old, Christmas was all white, cold, snowy. And they decided to take us, my brother and I, to Senegal for Christmas. And I still remember when the plane, you know, opened and the door opened, it was like a big heat wave because December was very hot in Senegal. And we stayed in a hotel like many tourists, but then they quickly decided that it was not typical enough. So they took us on a small bus in the middle of the jungle, and we stayed with a French expats at the time who had opened a wood factory in the jungle of Senegal in the middle of nowhere. And we found us staying there for 2 weeks. There was no, I mean, my parents must have been gone crazy at the time because there was no communication means. There was no phone, no Wi-Fi, nothing. And the only way to go back to the nearest village was a bicycle with only one pedal. And that was it. So, you know, at the time, it was really weird for us, for my brother and I. He was 2.5, 3, and I was 4. But it was great because we would go and collect wild oysters and play with monkeys. And it was just like different. And that difference made a lot of sense. So I still remember the taste of the oyster and the smell and the heat. And we had so much fun. So that was the first step into being wild, probably.
Yeah. I mean, your parents didn't like kind of typical kind of Christmassy parties and things at home. They wanted to go on adventures.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
So I mean, was it your mum or your dad that was kind of behind that, or both of them?
I think both of them in their own way. But yes, they created that possibility that things could be different, and that the world. Oh, sorry, the light is going off. It's going to come back. Yeah. But it was possible to have different kinds of stories as children. And it was just not one way of living, but it was different ways of living. And I think, you know, being older now, I recognize that thanks to them, it opened up our mind and ideas of life.
So it gave you the sense of adventure.
Definitely. But you see, I was with my brother. My brother is not an adventure at all. He's super routine guy. You know, he doesn't go on planes easily. He likes to have his routine. And for me, routine and rules and processes are not what I'm looking for. So 2 kids, same family, same education, 2 different stories. So
and your brother,
it's not always automatic.
So your brother's still living in Switzerland?
Yeah, he is. And we're very close, very different, very close, very supportive of each other. And 18 months difference is not much. So
yeah. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
This is another Paul, but he's in India. Right. Okay, so Paul and Paul. Okay, so that also led on to, I mean, so at school then, so growing up in Switzerland, so kind of what was your education, and was it to do with tourism or something, or not at all?
No, not at all. But I think it comes from the fact that for me, life is really a world of experiences, and it's been the case since I'm little. I really want to make sure that every day gives me an opportunity to experience something, whether possibly good, I prefer that, but sometimes it's, and the best memory I have today are not necessarily the best ones. They're the tough ones. You know, when I landed in New York thinking I was going for a job, and I found myself jobless in Manhattan on my first day.
Yeah, I love that story. So let's go back a bit. So how did that come about? So with your education and then you wanting to venture off because you're this adventurous type of person?
No, it was because I did my hotel school. At the time, it was 10 years waiting list. I managed to start earlier. I did my 4 years. And then if you remember, Switzerland at the time was not part of the Schengen zone, was not part of anything. We were like the tiny country in the middle of Europe. So to go away from Switzerland to work was really tough at the time. And the 4 years I had, and I've tried to get training contracts every year with the school outside of Switzerland. It never worked. So I did work in the hotel industry for a couple of years, and then came a proposal from somebody in New York saying, through friends, and saying, I'm renovating a hotel in Manhattan, and I'm looking for people. So if there's a job at the reception for you, if you want to come. So
you jumped at that opportunity.
I've been trying to go away for years, and comes an opportunity in a city of, for me, Manhattan I knew Manhattan from 1 week vacation, and I was seeing New York like many people on TV through series. So for me, was going to, a great experience. So I prepared my visa. I took my 1 suitcase I was allowed for an undetermined period of time, and off I went.
How old were you then?
I was 23.
So a couple of years ago.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. At the time, I barely knew English. I had very little knowledge of both the US English and New York. All I was told is I had a job as a receptionist in a 5-star deluxe hotel in the center of Manhattan, and I had a week of paid accommodation in the hotel before I could find my own apartment. So that was the perspective. So when I arrived at the hotel with my suitcase and I met with the GM, he said, look, I don't know how to tell you, but your job has been given to somebody else. So that's where I found myself with the choice saying, okay, what do I do? Do I go back to Switzerland with my suitcase over my dead body? Never. So I just proposed that I would do anything in the hotel. I could do anything. He said, well, the anything is just cleaning the rooms. I said, fine, I'll clean the rooms. I hate to clean my house, but I will clean your hotels if you want. So that's where it started.
So basically, you're giving up everything that you had in Switzerland. You ventured out on your own. You were young, and then you went to the dreams of Manhattan and this 5-star deluxe kind of hotel. You're going to be on the reception, seeing celebrities and all sorts coming in. And then you got there, and then he shattered your dreams there and then.
Yeah, but
then,
it was a great thing to do. You know, backwards, that was my first
maybe not
experience
at the
managing.
time.
Well, at the time, I felt really bad because I had just a week accommodation, a cleaning housekeeper
he was happy to
job.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
I mean, he was still happy to give you a job. Then.
Oh yes. Well, he felt really bad because he had done exactly the same education I had, same school, same diploma.
This is the hotel manager or something.
Yeah. So, and I was trained to become manager of a hotel. So to find myself cleaning rooms was not really on my career path. But that was a way to gain time. So a week later, I found an apartment on my one and only day off. And then.
So they made you work hard then for that.
Yes, and 2 weeks later, I went back and said, well, now that I've done 2 weeks of cleaning, maybe you can do something about it. So he said, well, what would you want? I said, well, I can be an assistant housekeeper. So I became the housekeeper second hand. And then I went back a month later and I said, well, this must be something else. And he said, what do you think? I said, well, you're going to open your restaurant in 2 weeks from now and room service. And you've got the system, the IT system to manage that in the basement, and it's not installed. So I could do that. He said, oh, really? Can you? I said, sure. Piece of cake. I had no idea where to start, but I knew that I had to find a way. So I said, okay. So I put together the IT system for the restaurant, what we call in the language, the food and beverage IT system. And I did that for a few months. And I was sitting next to the finance director, Brazilian, who was a good swearer in Brazilian as well, James. And I said, look, I know because now it's working. So he's going to come back to me and say, well, now that it's working, what are you going to do next? So I said, when he asked me, I'm going to tell him that I'm going to work with you in finance. He said, you're welcome. So that's how I ended up in finance. And I did meet a lot of celebrity, Madonna being one of them. But at the time I was cleaning rooms and we were forbidden to take the lifts, the same lift as the guest. We had Phil Collins, the Madonna, the Simon and Garfunkel of the time. And one day I was waiting with my broom and everything at the staff lift. And I got impatient. I said, oh, what the hell? For once, I just go to the guest elevator and I pressed and the door opened and Madonna was in there. I said, oops. And she said, oh, come in. So she was sweating as I was sweating, but not for the same reason. I was cleaning, she was exercising. But we had a great conversation. So I did have my dose of celebrities in the lift.
Wow. So she must have been quite young as well. You must have been similar ages or something.
Yeah, she was a bit older. I was, but she was in her phase of exercising massively. So we had to transform the room into a gym.
Wow.
Where she had everything she could, so that she could exercise.
So you were in the gym exercising with her?
No, I didn't have time to exercise. I had to clean the rooms, but
you didn't take some of her sweaty clothes as souvenirs.
No, but I remember she was very friendly.
Yeah, I mean, this is a kind of a magical story. I mean, I love the fact that you could have easily like burst into tears, given up, got on the next plane and gone home. And
oh yeah,
I think a lot of people would have done that, right? And then never ventured out again.
Yeah.
But it was kind of pride as well. That
it was pride, but it was so the belief that you can turn things in different ways when they come to you, and that happened the same when I was in your country, Paul, in South Africa, when I was in deep trouble in the middle of the jungle.
You called on Paul.
In Zululand. I called Paul and say, hey, come on. But yeah, at the time it was really rough. And when I had to face some board of directors and being challenged when I needed, 12 millions, 100 millions for my budget, it was not easy neither. So that experience in New York, when I had to manage cleaning ladies coming from Puerto Rico, from Eastern Europe and so on, they were really tough ladies. And I was here with my 23 years of zero experience.
Mm-hmm.
It was as tough. So it has been early in my vein to face challenges.
So how long were you in that hotel for?
When I arrived, I had no fixed period, but after 2.5 years, I had to ask for the green card if I wanted to stay. And I thought, I had enough of New York after 2.5 years. Financially, I was pretty broke because I used my savings
to have fun,
just to have fun and to have a good living in New York. So I thought, I'll come back to Switzerland, and that's when I changed career for the first time.
So I'm just curious about your accommodation. Was it in Manhattan?
It was on Roosevelt Island.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful. So I had a beautiful scenery from my apartment, and I was taking a Swiss 𝗘𝗘𝗏𝗧, a Swiss tramway to cross the river. At the time, the subway was not existing between Roosevelt Island and Manhattan. So I was taking a Swiss tramway to cross the river every morning to go to work. It was a great experience.
I bet you could.
Dominic, James, may I ask a question?
Yeah, yes, of course.
What did your parents say about you going to New York in the first place?
They would be very supportive, and they've been supportive of me every time I took decisions. When I decided to move to Mauritius and create my own business, they were with me. When I decided, when I was 52, to resign from a C-level position, having good remuneration, good life, and so on, I said, you know what, I'm going to quit. And he said, oh, so what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. And I said, okay, so let us know if you need us, we'll be there. So they've always been very supportive, and that's a big, I wouldn't say difference, but it's a big advantage. And so is my husband, because he's been used to me taking risks, and he's not a risk taker at all.
And your husband's not Swiss, or
no,
Swiss. He's Swiss now.
He's Swiss and French now. He's multiplying the passports. So I told him to stop because it becomes a bit silly. But yes, he's from Tunisia. He's from Northern Africa. I think he became more Swiss in his mentality than I am, and I became much more Tunisian than he is. So he gets excited when the shops don't open on time, and I really don't care. And he really gets excited when people don't keep their promises, and I just take it easy. So yeah,
he's become more Swiss than you.
He has, and yeah. So
I find that with my wife as well. I mean, Brazilian, everything gets done when it's done. Right now that she's here, right, she's become more Swiss than the Swiss.
Yeah,
right? Very timekeeping and all of this. I think you're Brazilian, and I think she thinks she's Swiss now. I'm not saying it's bad not to keep timekeeping, but sometimes you can go over the top as well.
Absolutely, but he's very supportive of what I do today and my change of career, and he's been very supportive as well when I was, in C-level positions and traveling the world. And
so where did you meet him?
In Tunisia. I went on vacation once.
You were allowed one holiday.
Yeah, I had one holiday, and we went with my mom to Tunisia. We were very close with my mom, and we had great vacation. And I met him the day before we were leaving. and we just crossed in the restaurant where he was working and I was a guest. And we just say hello, and that was it. And the next day I went away. And a year after, my mom went back to the same place, and I was not
You said
supposed
hello
to.
again.
No, I was not supposed to go there, so I didn't go there. And then she felt lonely, so she said, "Oh, can't you come?" I said, "Okay, I'll come for a week." And yeah, and she said, "Oh, and you know, it's not like last year. This year, the guy in the restaurant is really not nice, and I have a table at the end of the restaurant, and they treat me like an old lady." And so I said, "Well, be strong. Go and speak to the 𝗪𝗘𝗘𝗞 and ask to change the table and be closer to where the fun is." So the day I arrived, I said, "Well, did you ask for a better table?" And she said, "Oh yeah, it's the best table in the restaurant. And you know what? The waiter is so nice. He's so charming." So we went there on Saturday when I arrived, and guess who was serving my mom? It was the same guy I had said hello a year before. And he said, "Wow, it's you." I said, "It's you." And the same night he said, "Can I invite you for a tea?" I said, no, because, you know, I'm here for my mom, so I'm going to stay with her. She needs me. And he was so disappointed. So the next day he said, "Well, can I insist and invite you for a drink?" And my mom said, yeah, we come. And I said, "Well, he's inviting me, not us." And she said, "Oh, but we'll go." So we went.
The three of
And
you.
I went with my mom, and the third day I went by myself. And on the fourth day, we had chosen the name of our children, and we got married 6 months later.
Wow.
We never had the children we had said we would, but we have 8 nephews and nieces, and it's been 20 years we are married. So I must be a risk taker, and he must be a risk taker as well, because, you know, it was kind of a risky start, but it was obvious for us.
So that's an absolutely beautiful story. And then the fact that he was there a year later as well, and you remembered, and you were still single, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Right. So who said hello to, which one said hello first? So
yeah.
So I mean, it just reminds me of that Tom Cruise movie, Jerry Maguire. He says, "You had me at hello." Do you remember? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
That movie. He had you. You had him at hello, or you had, well, whatever way round, but it was at hello.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. I love that story. I didn't know that one. So
you see, I have secrets for you, James, even still today.
Yeah. So anyway,
and that's just the beginning.
Exactly. So Kim has actually asked you something that you've already said a bit about businesses. So tell us about, I mean, you've come back from New York. Where did you get married, by the way?
In Switzerland. And we got the fiance in Tunisia and then Switzerland.
And then he came to join you here.
Yeah. And at the time I had already a number of years of career behind me. I was going up the ladder in leadership roles in large multinationals. So after I had worked for Levi's, Novartis, Firmenich, the watch industry, I was just starting a new job when we got married. It had been a year. And I was given additional responsibility for Africa, for HR, then the corporate jobs in Geneva, plus data, expat management, the whole range. So I was going up at at high speeds in corporate positions. So it was kind of a challenge for me to juggle between the requirements of the job and getting married and making sure he was happy in Switzerland.
So I've been pretty busy. Do you think that was a snowball effect from coming back from New York and that experience that you gained there as a good reference?
Totally, because coming back to Switzerland in the hotel industry from New York, where I had tasted the adventure and in the American way of working, which is you perform, you get results, you get promoted. In Switzerland, you have to wait and be patient and be conservative and traditional. So for me, there was no way I could go back to hotel business in Switzerland. So that's how I started to work for Levi's and traveling the world, because I was in charge of Middle East, of Africa, of Eastern Europe. It was the time of the Berlin Wall coming down. It was the end of the apartheid in South Africa. So I was responsible to set up all the manufacturing plants and the shops in Hungary, in Poland, in the Czech Republic, in Egypt, in South Africa. So I was always away from Switzerland from then on.
And quite high pressure jobs as well.
And a lot of travel. So I had my dose of travel, and I learned how not to be sick in plane because I was flying all the time.
Did you pick up some Hungarian?
No, not enough. Not enough. But
from Hungary originally. It's just...
Yeah, I know, from Budapest. Are you from Budapest?
I'm not born there, but I spent many years in Budapest.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I had a great time in Budapest, but very interesting times. And it was fun to work for a US company, a cool company. Making jeans was much nicer than what I ended up at the last part of my career, so I thought. But it was great times of Levi's, and I found myself in 10 years opening up manufacturing plants, learning how a pair of jeans is made, and how working in a noisy manufacturing plant can be, and retail and so on. And I still have many friends from Levi's, although I've left now 30 years from now. So it's been a long time. So you
still got plenty of jeans at home?
I still have plenty of jeans. The size has changed since, but yes.
So you still got the big flare ones?
Yeah, and I still, when I go in a Levi's store, I always go to the staff, say, I've worked in Levi's. I say, oh, really? In what year? And then I realized that they were probably not born when I was working at Levi's.
You should say that I don't have to buy them anymore, so you have to give me them.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean that's a great story. So I want to kind of get into like why you left the corporate world and what you're doing there.
Well, it was, life doesn't happen by coincidence, but I had developed a very close relationship with the various CEOs. It was my 6th CEO in the same company after 15 years. The last one said, you know what, I have enough money. I think I'm going to retire next year. And the chairman was a dreadful chairman, but I had worked with. He was also the CEO of Fiat Chrysler, impressive guy, business guy. He was a terrorist in terms of leadership style, but we had very close relationships. So I realized that I was 51 at the time, and I thought, you know what, I've been 15 years in the same company. At the time, the company was 95,000 employees.
Wow.
I was at the top. I couldn't go further. I'm just gonna wait for the light. Voila. And I thought, do I stay 15 more years until I retire? And I mean, the answer came quite quick. But then I thought, okay, so I'm 51 now. What am I going to do afterwards? And I thought, well, I don't need 150 countries. I could manage 10. I'll be happy with 10. So I started to prepare my resignation. And then the CEO got fired actually earlier than he had planned his retirement. And the process didn't go really well. The CEO who took over, I had supported his nomination. The chairman had named me from all the bad words already because of my ID, but he's the one he decided to elect. Totally different leadership style. The CFO resigned. I had to recruit a new CFO. So that postponed my resignation. I had major initiatives of a few millions to roll out. I had the best team on earth. I thought, do I resign? Do I not resign? But when I got my 52nd birthday on the 8th of February, then on the 9th of February, I went to see my CEO and I said, well, look, sit down next to me. I'm going to read you a letter. And I read my resignation letter. And he said, and I said, look, I know you want me out and I want to be out. So that's my resignation, but officially you're going to fire me. And this way you're going to have the pride of having fired me and I'm going to be released and I can fly my own games. Now, this has a cost to have you feel comfortable. And this is the cost that it is going to cost you. Can you please sign here? And
Wow.
he signed. And I signed, I resigned. Obviously my husband fully supported me because he said, look, I don't like the person that I see when you come back exhausted from work. And life is not about working that way. So if you feel like resigning, we'll find a way. And I thought, you know what? I'll resign and then I'll take a rest and then I'll think. And if worst come to worst, I can be a taxi driver. I love to drive. I love people. I can become a taxi driver. But that's how I resigned.
Or you could go back to New York.
I didn't go back to New York.
And start again cleaning the rooms.
No, what I did, I went to interviews and I thought, well, you know what? I've done that. I've been there. I want something different. I'm too old to start again the same thing and do and redo and undo and redo. So let's do something different. And
did you know at the time before you resigned what you were going to do?
No idea. No idea. All I knew is that I didn't want to continue the same way. But on the trigger was on the last week of December 2016. 3 people told me the same week that I could become an entrepreneur and open my own business. And I named them fools because I said an entrepreneur works far too much, doesn't get the money he or she needs to live, doesn't sleep well at night, and never takes vacation. So that's not the life I want. And the 3 people said, well, that's your story of entrepreneurship. Maybe there's other way of becoming an entrepreneur. And I met 3 people and I discovered that one had taken 6 weeks of vacation the year before. The other one was making pretty good money. And the third one had created a lifestyle that he really liked. And so that was the last week of December. And on the 31st of December, I was cooking dinner for the night. And in the morning, I had registered for one of those webinars that you think, oh, I've got nothing to do, so I'll register. And after 3 hours of webinars, I thought, that's a long webinar. How long does it last? And it actually lasts 8 hours. So I said, okay, so I kept on and I was cooking while I was listening. And it was a great webinar about mindset change and how to start your own business. And on January 1st, I had registered for a program with them. And that's how it started. And then in February, I had my first client. And then in March, my second. And I used 2017 to train myself. That's when I met you, James. And 2018, I created officially my company and charging the clients I had worked with in 27. And now it's 4 years and I've doubled my revenue since. I have a team of 7 people and clients across 12 countries and having so much fun every day in what I do.
Congratulations. I mean, I absolutely love your story. And I mean, it inspires me a lot. The more I hear it, the more inspiration I get that everything is possible if you have the right mindset. And you've proven it time and time again. And from being, I mean, no disrespect, but I mean, from your experience in New York and having to do the cleaning to then be able to tell the CEO of a company that you demanding what you want and leaving on your terms, I mean, is remarkable. So, and then also venturing out into the entrepreneurial world. I mean, it's not easy, particularly when you have no idea what you want to do. And you've made a success of that. So tell me more about what you actually do now. So you've got this team, and so what are you doing?
So what we do is we help organizations and individuals pivot and take a new perspective at what they're doing, professionally speaking. And for companies, that can be creating a new ways of working, creating a new culture, re-engaging their workforce, so that what they do or the way they do it is more aligned with what their clients are expecting and their employees are expecting. And now with, you know, the 5 generations working together, it speaks to organizations because they don't know how to manage that issue. So it's helping them pivoting and seeing things differently. And for individuals is to consider their professional life and redesign or recreate a professional life that is aligned with their values, with their experience, with their purpose, with their skills, so that it makes sense to them. It can be turning into an entrepreneur, or it could be turning into a new career within corporate life. But in all cases is not doing the same thing, is the fact that the future doesn't have to look like the past. And it's really going deep into who they are, why they do what they do, strengthening their strengths, managing their mindset and their internal saboteurs, so that they don't, you know, think too much, but they act on their limiting beliefs, and it actually creating that new professional life that they have been dreaming of, whatever that may be. So sometimes it's very, very different from, and sometimes it's just a bit of an adjustment. It depends, but it's really putting them back into the driving seats to say, what is it that I like? What is it that I'm good at? Where is the need? And how do I get started?
I love it. So looking back at the companies that you've worked for, particularly in the corporate world, and you've seen people come and go for either being fired or they've resigned, or it just didn't fit there, so they've left. So I mean, I'm just imagining like they could have done, I mean, the HR department with a service that you offer now, because you said yourself, even when you came to leave, you didn't know what you were going to do.
Yeah.
Now, if that was kind of a leaving package, right, you'd go to the HR, and this is kind of the, I wouldn't say exit program, but more of the next phase kind of with your career development. Then do you want to do back in the corporate world? Do you want to do something on your own, or you don't want to do anything? At least have that option to have a discussion. And it just seems that is missing today.
Well, there are some companies that offer outplacement programs, but because I've restructured myself as an HR person, I had to do restructuring, and that included me. So I've been through a few outplacement programs. The thing is, the purpose is not the same, because when you're an outplacement company, your objective is to help the person find a job as quickly as possible. Whether they feel miserable in the next job or super happy is not their mission, is not their mandate. What I do is to really make sure that the next phase of life is a good one. Hi, Boyan, welcome back. So that's the big difference. So I do have some companies that come to me and say, look, we know what an outplacement program is, but you're different, because we really make sure that the next job or the next venture is the right one for the person, and not any job.
Right. So I completely agree with that. And I think there's more of a need for that now, because there's a lot of people in the corporate world or in jobs in general that are feeling lost and disillusioned, not just with the job, but with life in general.
Yeah,
and
it's too sad. For me, that's unbearable, because life can really be great, and we don't have several lives. It's not like, okay, game over and we start again. So and I've seen too many people saying, you know what, I'm not happy where I am, but it's a job. And I'll be happy, you know, I'm happy in the weekends, I'm happy during vacation, and I will be happy when I retire. But some of them don't reach retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's the purpose?
Exactly.
So why wait when you can take the direction of your life again, but not do that alone? Because when you do it alone, it's lonely, and you don't get the structure, you don't get the feedback. You're either too tough with yourself or too gentle, it depends. But to go on a travel and a journey of transition by yourself, it takes
It's a lonely one.
It's a lonely one, and it takes you more time to get to the destination, the right destination, than when you can do it with somebody who's been there and who knows the do's and the don'ts and the why, and has the tools and the techniques to make the journey a nice one and not a painful one.
I absolutely love this. So I'm going to open it up to the audience to interact, because I think maybe Kim wants to say something. Just come up.
Yeah, I would like to hear what is the secret behind recruiting people in your business. You said you had 7 team members.
Yeah.
What's your secret?
I chose them for the passion they have for what they do. So some are in the marketing side, some are in copywriting, like our friend in Madrid, like Cornelia. One is passionate about system, one is passionate about branding, one is passionate about coaching. So I love to work with people who love what they do and are good at. If they can give me 2 hours per week, they give me 2 hours per week. If they can give me full time, they give me full time. But that makes it, at the moment, I have somebody in Florida, I have somebody in India, one in Germany. But it's funny because the guy in Florida comes from Maine. The person from India was in France before. The person in Germany comes from the US. I've got somebody from Cameroon working from Scotland for me. And I've got a Japanese Argentinian based in Switzerland. And I've got somebody from Serbia working from Oman for me. So it's totally diverse. But what they have in common is that they love what they do and they love to make an impact. And they love to have the freedom, but the chance also to contribute to something that makes sense to them.
Thanks. James, I just want to let you know I have a meeting at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
That means
yeah, no problem. So feel free to
be
join.
Unpolite, but I will be checking out at 3 o'clock. It was nice meeting you all. Yeah, and thanks for the great story, Dominic.
Thank you.
Feel free to come on every Friday or any Friday.
Schedule that. Okay. Have a great weekend.
Right. Thanks, Kim.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Right. So Dominic, any other question for Dominic? Right. So I love it in the way that, I mean, you particularly focus also on people over 50.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I see, well, there's a few reasons for that. First, if you look at data, I'm not a data person, but sometimes it's good to go back at data. But if you look at data, the 50+ generation becomes the biggest one worldwide in terms of demographics, less in Africa and in Asia. But if you look at North and South America or Europe, it is a big part of the active working generation. It's roughly 35% to 40%, depending on the country. So if you protect yourself in 10 years, 20 years from now, there's a few people who have done research about that. So by 2030, in Switzerland only, there's going to be a lack of 300 or 400,000 jobs vacant because there's nobody to take over. And it's the same in Brazil, it's the same in France, in the US, in China, in Germany. So big economies will be without an active workforce. So that's one reason. Plus, when you're 50, you know, now with the life expectancy and with the experience and the skills and the background that we have when we're over 50, it's massive information and knowledge that cannot be put away like that. So, you know, prepare for retire and sit on your couch and go play golf if you've got money. Yes, Brian.
I will come to you on 23rd of March. On 22nd, I turn 50. So, but I think it's just the first quarter of life, and so the life just starts now. Not
yes, absolutely.
Exactly, the first quarter.
Unfortunately, I mean, you're totally right. A friend of mine passed away last year. He was 51 or 52. So, and last time we met in person was 2018. So we were speaking about projects, etc. So he says, "No, I'm retiring." So, but it shows that life or God or whoever has different plans for you. And it's such events in life puts you in a position to really think what you're doing, how you do it. How to put value in your existence, let's say.
Yeah,
exactly.
totally.
So I see it's kind of some fundamental questions you ask yourself in life at some point. I know we've had these discussions before and we think the same. So when you're a child, at some point in your childhood, you ask, well, what will I be when I grow up? And a lot of people have no idea, or they've got a vivid imagination of what they want to do. And then normally when you're kind of in midlife, and they talk about midlife crisis or reaching 50 or whatever, then they ask the question, well, what's it all about? What's my life all about? Right? And then like if you say that they come to retire next, oh, I'm waiting till I retire, right? They might not even get there. But then when they do retire, then ask again, well, kind of what's next?
Totally, yeah. So I'm passionate about turning or shaking the mindset up to say midlife means it's mid. So if you're at the middle, why should you give up on the second middle, in the second half, when you're just halfway? So yeah, and about 2 weeks ago, I posted an article on the 50 plus entrepreneurs and the fact that there are 5 times more chances that when you create your business, when you're over 50, you're more successful because you've got more experience, you've been through tough times, you've managed a team at times, you've managed a budget, you know more about life and adversity than when you're 25. So and at the end of March, I'm launching a 6-week program for 50 plus entrepreneurs to help them not to set up their business. That's a different program. I do that as well, but it's to focus on their well-being, on their health, on their emotional well-being, on their spiritual well-being, because as an entrepreneur, you're the best asset. If you go down the drain, if you're tired, if you don't feel well, if you're not aligned between what you do and your purpose, if you don't manage your emotions, you don't have a kind of plan B. So as an entrepreneur, it's super important that we take care of ourselves and have a successful business, but have a life as well. So that's something I'm really passionate to change the mindset and helping entrepreneurs like myself who say, well, you know, it's 9 p.m. It's about time to have a life. Or have you been breathing today? Have you been walking today? And there's some simple tips that we can use to make sure that not only we live longer, but we live well longer, so that we can be successful longer. So it's kind of a sustainability for humans.
I absolutely love it. And I'm just going to ask you some more questions, right? But audience can feel free to chip in or ask anything as well, or you can ask the audience any questions. But I mean, it resonates, everything that you're saying resonates with me. So I just want to ask, typically, as you come from the corporate world, who do you now see as your typical clients that you work with on a daily basis?
Usually, naturally, these are people that are 45, 50, 55, 60 or more. I have a Japanese client who's 65 and call me and say, you know what, I should be retired, but I don't want to retire. I want to do something, but I'm not sure what it could be. Bye, Paul. So it's usually 40 plus people who now find themselves, they might not be without a job, but they find themselves in a position that is not what they expect any longer. It may be painful, or it may be just uncomfortable, or people who say, you know what, I've been dreaming on starting my own business. I feel now is the time, but I'm not sure where to start, or I'm not sure what can I do to make sure it's a success and not a failure.
So
it's people that know what they know is that that's not the place I want to be, but I'm not sure what the next phase can be, or I have an idea, but I'm not sure where to start. These are my typical clients.
I mean, so more individuals then, and
both.
It doesn't matter if they're individuals from the corporate world or individuals from
it's really
wherever.
both, James. The only difference between corporations and individuals is the decision making. And an individual will say, okay, I've got a pain, you've got a solution, let's go. A company will say, I've got a pain, you've got the solution, let me think about it. And they think about it, and they think about it. And a few months later say, okay, we're ready. But that's the main difference.
And do you work with children at all?
Not for the time being. I have fun with children, but I don't work with children. But I have a lot of fun with children.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just trying to introduce my storytelling into your world as well. But I mean, we can talk about that separately. So I mean, so tell us about the program. So your programs are online programs, they're face-to-face, they're one-to-one, or groups, or?
We do customized programs because human beings are never the same. So it's usually face-to-face, but virtually. I mean, during COVID, we've been super busy, but it was obviously virtual and not touching each other. But it's both group programs, and individual programs, but always live. What is recorded are resources, examples, stories, articles that people do on the side, but it's always live, because people go through ups and downs during the programs, and they need to be able to speak to somebody. So whether individually or in small groups, it's always live.
Oh, excellent. And if people want to get hold of you, I just want to wrap this up and go into the kind of the next session next. Right. So if people want to get hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
LinkedIn, email.
Right. I've put in the chat.
North, my website where you have
video.
So yeah, it's either the website or LinkedIn. And I don't know whether you've got the website, James. But
yeah, I put in the chat there, so whatever's in there. Right.
I downloaded the book.
Or you can read the book.
Yeah.
Not reading, but download.
Now, maybe we could just touch on that quickly, just for this audience, and then we'll kind of wrap that up. So you are also an author.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I had never planned to write a book, but I co-wrote a book with my colleague, one of my colleagues, who's American, living in Switzerland for 30 years now, and
just want to say something before I forget. You mentioned right at the beginning when you went to New York that you hardly spoke English.
Yeah.
Your English is beautiful now.
I'm not sure it's beautiful, but it's my breathing language now. So, and by writing a book, you know what, it was interesting because Ellen, my co-writer, she's American, so her mother tongue is English. And so we wrote the book during COVID times, so at a distance. So to co-write is not as easy as we may think, but we were very good friends when we started. We even better friends now. So it has strengthened the friendship relationship. And I was correcting her English, and our editor Paul is from London. Very good English, obviously. And sometimes when we had the working, you know, Paul and James, and when we had our working session, and they were struggling with their English, I was the one coming with the words. Say, well, why don't we say it like that? So it was a training, an English training for me too, because I had to explore other ways of writing and saying things that I would normally do. And you know, in French, we tend to go into circle and make long sentences and so on, whereas in English, it's boom, 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 boom. So I had to learn to be more straightforward.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to go into more about the storytelling and whatever, and the book and everything, but only for those that wish to stay on. So we can wrap this one up, and because we're kind of on time now, we're just over the time. And if anyone wants to stay on, and maybe just a show of hands, who wants to stay on for the book one?
I cannot stay. I probably another 2 minutes. I need to leave, but I just wanted to reach out to Dominique if possible before signing up, because I'm totally in the picture what you described, you know, 58, left the corporate world, trying to do something new, etc. So if before I would sign up anything, just to have a informal discussion, or even, you know, we're in Geneva, so restrictions are off, so maybe you have a coffee or something somewhere. I would really like to have a chat with you, and then maybe just, you know, to think about what to do and what possible, etc. So I would appreciate that. I sent you a LinkedIn invitation, so we'll connect.
I'll accept gladly.
Thank you very much.
And I look forward to see you.
Thank you. Sorry, I need to leave them. So, but anyway, thanks for James for everything.
Yeah,
thanks
welcome.
Dominic for everything, and yeah, have a good rest of the week. Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks,
bye.
Laszlo. Thanks. Bye.
I'm gonna have to wave.
I will have to leave as well. Thank you very much, both of you, James and Dominique. Actually, it was my topic for my master thesis, the challenging times of the 50 plus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I will contact you soon, because I have a lot of things to say, and I would love to have a chat with you.
That's great. Congratulations.
Okay, Crystal, can you also connect on LinkedIn as well?
Actually, my LinkedIn is not ready,
okay.
So you won't see anything very interesting, but I will do it soon.
Okay, because where did you say you're based in Switzerland?
In Bern.
Oh, right. So,
but I studied in Geneva during the COVID.
Right. Okay.
May I say something again?
Yes, of course.
Dominique, you said that you are working on the mindset of the 50 plus, but during my research, what I found it incredibly annoying is that the corporates and the company, they tend to not to acknowledge this problem, the aging problem, and mid-career, I don't know how to say that in English. I think this is where they will have to work on this new workforce, and they are not willing to do it, and I'm very frustrated about it. And
I totally agree, Christelle. And what we found out when we wrote the book is that 64% of companies acknowledge the need of recognizing ageism in their inclusion initiatives, but only 8% of them do something about it. So you see, it's what I agree with you. It's pretty sad, but you know, we're gonna.
It's something like the corporate culture. A lot of people speak about this, but not built on this as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, next week I have meetings with a few companies in Interlaken, so I'm gonna shake them up. I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
nice
you,
weekend.
Crystal.
Excellent. Thanks, Crystal, and do come on another Friday.
Yes, I have subscription for Harvard Business Review. And 2 or 3 years ago, they had a special edition about aging employees. It was very interesting articles. It was something to awake the corporate world that they need to think. And this was especially targeting North America and Europe, because other societies, let's say Africa, maybe China, it's a different structure of the age. But for Europe, it's like a time bomb. It's really important. The companies, they need to take serious actions to retain, to keep these people, to give option to. So the problem is already in. So this is.
We can see already. Yes, absolutely, Brian. I agree. Yeah, it's massive.
Okay, so I just wanted to, I mean, I'll just keep the recording going, and then Dominic, I mean, you can chop off if you want to chop off this section, or do you want us to stop this? And
No, that's fine.
Oh, okay then. It's just we're moving into kind of the book now, and the reason why I asked you to stay on is because coincidentally, or maybe not coincidentally, because there's no such thing, right? You have written a book, and I've been searching for a publisher, and when I found the publisher, and then you showed me some books, he showed me your book, and I said, "Oh, I know Dominic," and it was good to know that you've used the same person that I selected based on why I wanted to select Pauline as a book publisher. So, in saying that, can you, because we are right at the very, very beginning, and we haven't necessarily, we're doing a collective story on previous featured business guests. So now there's been 78. I mean, you're the 78. Obviously, we can't have all because the book would be too big. So we decided on 13 was it's actually a lucky number, not an unlucky number as people think it is. So we decided on 13, give or take. I mean, maybe 12 or maybe 14. It doesn't matter so much. But we're starting now the whole process. So we've got kind of that 13 number at the moment. Maybe it'll change slightly. People drop off and others will come on. But we just, from your experience and what you went through to create the book, how was the experience for you? Why did you pick Paul as the publisher? And then how was the kind of the sequence of events that from the start to the middle to the end when you actually published? I'll
try to be structured and clear. Well, first, Ellen and I, we had decided to write a book. It was our first book for both of us. So
another reader you have.
Oh, great, Brian.
One click.
Excellent.
Yeah, because you can promote your book now so we can see it and we can buy it.
I didn't take a copy with me, damn it.
I bought it.
Online.
So boy, but because wait, just while I've got you, right? You know this person. No, you know this person, don't you?
Oh yeah, I do.
He was my guest,
Ralph,
a few weeks ago. I mean, we know Ralph from the same kind of circuit, right? And yeah, he's going to be the forward in the book. So he's got the hardest bit to make sure all the stories kind of flow.
So when we had decided to write the book, because we had no experience, we had heard that the most difficult thing is to find somebody to publish your book. So we were ready to go for fights already. And so we started to educate ourselves on the different kind of editors and publishers that exist. And before, we had no idea that there are different types. So we looked at one that is based in the US, but then it was before COVID. And then we imagined that it would be difficult because of the time zone and, you know, the ways of working and so on. And we looked at different kind of editors. And then we got a message from Paul saying, I've seen, because we probably did one post in LinkedIn saying we're starting to write our book. And we had started, we had done 2 chapters, something like that. And Paul contacted us and he said, this is what I do. Can we have a chat? And that's when we discovered that it was different ways of publishing and editing a book. And to be an editor and a publisher is not the same, but he does both. And that's how it started. And his offer being pretty reasonable and he being, you know, quite knowledgeable and so on. We decided to go for that, and we thought it's our first book, so we didn't have much pretension about the outcome. But looking backwards, I think it was a very smart decision because he's been super professional, very dedicated, very helpful, a nightmare. We've cried because of him, because at some point we just couldn't. And he had warned us in the beginning. He said, "You're gonna hate me," and I said, "Ah, no, we can't hate you." And he said, yeah, you're gonna hate me. And we did hate him at some point. But he's been very supportive and we're very close, because we've seen the impact of him being so painful sometimes and so difficult and so insisting. On some points we would have not given such an attention. So he's very detail orientated, but his ambition or objective of quality was really a big advantage, because the feedback we had from the book and the quality is really thanks to his persistence in pushing us to make it better, quicker, shorter, more concise, better quality. So I would only but recommend him to anyone who wants to write, especially a first book. I think we were one of the first business book that he did, not the very first one, but he had not done as many before. But the process was very clear. He's a great editor. He really is really focused on writing, finding the right words and the right structure, and always pushed us to say, is that important for your reader, or is it just important for you?
Exactly.
And
He's actually said that for us. He said,
yeah,
don't think about you, think about them.
Yeah.
What do they want to see in a book?
Yeah, and it's not that easy, because when you write, you want to put your passion, you want to put everything in it. But if you step back and say, well, is that just nice, or is it useful for the reader?
Mm-hmm.
So the writing, we had in mind that we would write the book and then publish the book and everything would be easy. What we found out is that we wrote the book and then we rewrote the book and then we rewrote the book. And after, I don't know, the 25th or 26th version, we had a book. So it was totally different. And probably for you, it's going to be a bit different because you're multi-writers and multi-stories and so on. So it's more experience sharing than maybe us. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But yes, we had definitely underestimated the time of writing, not writing, but editing. How much time did it take us to write? It took us probably 2 months to write it and then 18 months to editing.
Wow.
And that's why after a while, you know, Ellen is much less patient than I am. So when Paul saw that I was getting really impatient, he said, Dominique, I think, and I said, so tell me, when are we going to stop doing that editing work, because when is the book going to go out if we keep editing and editing and editing? And he said, well, when you're going to be really tired of me and about to kill me. I said, well, we're getting close. So I said, okay, so maybe we'll stop. So once we had edited, we had a master document. We had a table of content. Then came the proofreader. Again, we had no idea what a good proofreader could be or should be.
Oh, so he provided the proofreaders?
He provided one, but we had one, so which didn't end up being the best proofreader. But that's proofreading about, you know, the structure or the making sense of the text, but it's also proofreading and making sure that if you write that word in caps once, you have to write it always in caps. If you do the brackets like this, or you do the brackets like that, it's different. The comma, the semicolon, wow. You know, is it formatted like that way or centered? We used a lot of quotes in our book. Do you put the author in italic sometimes, you know, throughout?
Do you have it there then? Did you say you have it there or not with you? You could hold it up.
I don't think I have one.
Right. But so when did you launch? Because it was only recently, wasn't it?
So we launched on the 3rd of October 2021.
Oh, right. Okay.
Boyan has the e-version of the book. And so we launched it.
So which versions did you do? You did a physical book, an ebook?
We started with the ebook. That was his recommendation, to do a soft launch with the ebook. Before we had the book, we had to think about the cover. You can imagine the number of versions of the cover. The cover is, what color do you use? Do you use one big picture, a small picture, to make it loaded, simple? The back cover, what do you put on the back cover? The only thing that went easy is the spine, because you get limited space, but just the cover was not an easy one. Wow. And when we launched, we started with the ebook. We uploaded on Amazon. And then 2 weeks later, we launched the hard book on Amazon as well. And then we put it on Barnes and Noble. And the toughest was in Switzerland, because Switzerland is not keen on having English books in their library. And because Paul is not based in Switzerland, then, you know, what would have worked if we had worked with a Swiss-based.
Actually, I know the guy that maybe could help there, because he's originally from the UK, and he does kind of he took on a role as a Swiss publisher for Switzerland. So all the books that he does is in English.
Because we are everywhere in Amazon, and now the book is a bestseller in the US and in the UK.
Wow.
So the feedback is quite good. But Switzerland has been painful, because every time we, you know, if you say, oh, but the publisher is not based in Switzerland, but it's in English. I say, yes, but it's going to be in French soon. In May, it's coming out in French. And then at the end of the summer in Spanish. But they're very reluctant. They're really reluctant to take the book.
Okay, let's speak about this after, because I'll send you information about someone I know.
With pleasure, that would be great. Thank you.
So Boyan, you probably got questions?
Yes. Why you wrote the book?
Because at some point we were talking about, you know, the 50 plus and about what we love to do. But we said, well, there are people in Australia that we don't speak to. There are people in Chile we don't speak to. There are people in Ghana we don't speak to. We're not going to have enough time to speak to everybody. And then we were repeating the same all the time. And we said, well, why, instead of repeating verbally, why don't we write a book? And this way we're going to have something as a giveaway, as gifts as well. But we can actually reach and make a bigger impact quicker than just talking one by one to everyone in the world. So that was the main reason, is to make a quicker impact and to have something tangible You know, it's on paper or it's on your tablets, but it's something that people can see and feel and read. And we wanted something very practical, not only a book to inform them, but a book to help them get started in their own application of the books. So that's why we have the Thrive Guide.
But also kind of the memorabilia. I mean, to share your stories.
Yeah.
I mean, thanks, Paul.
Bye.
Right. Right. So, I mean, for me personally, because I have so many different diverse guests. I mean, 78 different diverse guests and all different stories. Now, next week it'll be someone else. And then I want to capture your story because it's so magical. I mean, it inspires me and many other things, right? Many emotions I go through, listen to your story. Now, if I can capture that and the next person's and the next person's, and then we have a collection of these, then it's not just like leaving it and moving on to the next person. I've got a collection of not just the stories that we've heard once, but now we've got something like tangible that we can give away, or we can keep as memorabilia, we can share with friends and family, other business people, and also to inspire. And when you talk about people that want to venture out into the entrepreneurial world and they have no idea, well, why not listen to some entrepreneur stories? And you don't know, well, which one do I listen to? Oh, well, he has 13 different ones, right? 13 different countries, different cultures, different languages, different people, different businesses, different ideas, different upbringings, but they all share the same thing in common. And
the book stays, you know, it stays in the system, it stays in paper. It's something that you leave behind.
Connie, do you want to be in the book?
I'm thinking about it. I don't know.
Because Boyan, I have to have Boyan in the book, you see, because Boyan has been our longest serving member. And he has to be, because a lot of the stories and a lot of the personality and then the memories are really a lot because of his influence as well as being in the audience.
And it's a great way to inspire others as well. Because when you write a book, you put your story in it, you put your life, your passion, what is dear to you. And it's like a legacy you leave behind as well, whatever age, but that remains, whatever happens afterwards, but that remains forever.
Absolutely. I mean, if I think of that, just that one thing alone, I mean, say something happened to me and I want people to remember me, where do they go to remember? I mean, these social media platforms will be a thing of the past in the future, and there'll probably be something different. But a book, and say, here's his story. This is what he did. And to me, that I can pass that on to my kids to read and help inspire them as well for when they're older.
And not only.
Sorry?
It can not only your kids, many other persons.
Yeah, to Connie, right? I'll pass it on to Connie so she can remember me.
Well, for me,
and Boyan, no?
And Boyan,
already something to James, but I will kind of repeat it in different light. My father, he wrote a book. He passed away, but we have the book, and I gave it to my son, to my daughter. So it's a story of the family. At the moment, he had 2 editions, so he had to reprint it and do some corrections. It's in Bulgarian. It's a family story plus his own stories and views on the world. Also, he wrote it 50 plus because it was interesting time when he wrote it. Bulgaria was shifting from communism, socialism to capitalism. The process officially was that it goes better, but in fact it went worse for a lot of things. And this is one thing. Another thing that we are doing now, so another story. My mother is writing a book. The problem she has problems with her sight. So I bought for her a digital pencil. She's speaking and telling the stories.
Nice.
Now we are working on, again in Bulgarian, a lot of stories from my father's book and my mother's book are actually the same story from different point of view.
I bet they don't have I bet they don't have you and telling your story in a collection of others. Because
it's one of the things. So I really like your idea. Okay, so this is why I also joined. Then it's quite a dedication from another side. Not that I cannot spend time on this. The thing is, my life is full of stories. So what you know about me, even with telling, it's maybe a drop in what actually there is behind to it.
True,
it's colorful life.
True, but
and some of the colors are very black, very dark. To say some of the, so people know me, smiling, charming person, etc. So I try to bring a good spirit, but at some moment this was a way to survive in the past. With, so the good, what I see that the book that multi-authors book, it's a great idea because I never thought about, even if I saw that several people write one book, normally it's a common story, common message sent to the people. James' book, an idea about the book is a mixture of stories. Maybe also the message is not yet clear, maybe, but it's, and it definitely will provoke the curiosity and interest of the people to.
And what I take away from it is that it's a great experience anyway, whatever happens, because it's an experience. And then for me, it gave me the taste to write another book, a second book or a third book.
Have you started another?
Yeah, I've started a second one, totally different.
But your own this time.
Sorry?
Your own on your own.
No,
this
not
time?
this time. This time is going to be about customer experience and employee experience and how to combine.
Yes, but do you write it alone?
Customer
just you.
Experience.
Yeah, I think Connie was saying just you.
We need to work together.
Yeah, but I mean, this is just you as the author or multiple authors?
It's going to be, I'm going to co-write with another partner of mine.
All right,
I'm co-working because it's like working together.
Yeah.
It's stimulating your, your ideas and your experience and so on. So, but then the third one is going to be mine.
Wow.
Oh,
Nice.
So you're thinking about the third one.
Yeah. I need a few likes.
So I am an author. Look, I wrote this book with my eldest son.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And then I mean, this is just some of the pictures and things inside. So yeah, need to. I haven't launched that. This is just a prototype. I mean, it's never been officially done. So I mean, I love the idea. I love speaking about it, and I love to share other people's stories, because when I have guests as well on this show, I mean, I am saying about there's some great people, and I typically use Boyan as an example, and if he's not in the book, I cannot quote him, and I cannot say, oh, Boyan, and I cannot, Boyan has got to be in the book. Whatever happens, he is my star person in that respect, because he's the most, no, but honestly, the book wouldn't be the same without him. And yeah.
And you've been here since forever, right?
Yeah.
well, this is what I very often repeat. The first time I joined, I became the mysterious guest because somebody was late, etc. And then I missed 1 or 2 Fridays. So also I was sometimes on Friday, but eventually this Friday was no. So because I didn't wrote the comment that James is with, let's say, with family or something. So this and this is something that it's like a family for the regulars, people that come, and you really meet valuable people. So James is having the talent to find the people. Well, every person in the world, I think it's a hidden treasure, but he's discovering ones that
He gives the
interesting
polish.
lives. You learn lessons from this. You learn about what they do, and the business.
Exactly.
So
I'm gonna have to go, James, because I've got
likewise.
to take my car to go to a meeting. But I really hope I'll try to come to as many Friday as I can.
If you can't, they're all recorded anyway, so just let me know if there's one you particularly fancy. But I mean, I handpick guests. They don't just willy-nilly turn up, and this is the beauty. I've always wanted you to share your story, and I thought this was the perfect time. And yeah, I love it, and we're going to have some more great people, and people I don't even know yet will become guests because I meet them on my journey as I network with other people. So I would like to thank you for staying on a bit longer. Thank you for sharing the story, particularly about the book and everything, because to me, I know it's going to be a challenge, and for some people it might be quite easy and easy going. Others will think it's the hardest thing ever, but we're all there to support one another. And I think I just wanted that reassurance that Paul is there to protect us and guide us and support us on that journey.
He's an angel.
Excellent. And that's what I wanted to hear, because you know him better than we do.
Well, I'm sure you'll like to have his experience, and he's really well-intentioned and very supportive.
Excellent. So on that note, because we have to wrap up, so Dominic, thank you once again for being our 78th guest.
Thank you.
You're absolutely a wonderful, wonderful person. I love your stories, and I know we only know a few of them. And I think some people here, if not all of them, want to connect with you and actually meet up with you. And I think meeting up with Laszlo in person would be good, because you're both in Geneva area. And I mean, I've never met anyone here in person besides yourself, of course. But yeah, we've got to fix that. So when we launch the book, we can go around to each person's house in respective countries.
That sounds like a plan.
And do a book launch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like 13 times. Right? Okay.
Hope to see you soon, huh? And have a great weekend in the meantime.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Boyan, and thank you, Connie.
We can do some stuff together.
Okay, I'll send you the recording when it's finished.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Bye, everyone.
You stop recording?
1 second.